Hello and welcome to another episode of WorkPro Files, exploring the best of business HR with your host, Jean Blackley. And today we're delighted to welcome two representatives from a WorkPro strategic partner, the HR Department. The HR Department provides outsourced HR support to local businesses. Here in Australia and also in the UK, the HR Department has built quite a reputation for providing a local, personal and professional outsourced HR service to small to medium enterprises. Of course, the demands of human resource management can be overwhelming for some business owners and particularly for growing businesses. And what the HR Department offers that I think is particularly valuable is enabling their customers to focus on their core business by providing support for managing the risks with practical advice and assistance for when businesses really need it around human resource management. In today's discussion, we're going to explore some of the key challenges that businesses are facing with employee engagement today. We'll talk about the challenges around engaging and recruiting employees, different ways of engaging employment types and roles. We'll also look at what are some of the challenges around termination when things don't work out in an employment relationship and how to best handle those. We'll also talk about the fact that when it comes to growing a business, a big part of managing HR is about managing risk. On the one hand, making sure that we're compliant, that we're in line with regulations and so forth, and avoiding unpleasant scenarios or getting into legal challenges and issues. But also, of course, that it's about investing in people and about aligning your human resource strategy and management to the business strategy. So today we're delighted to have two members from the HR Department joining us. First of all, Sarah Fox is the International Franchise Manager of the HR Department. Sarah has a career in HR and recruitment services with particularly the small and medium enterprise sector, working in beautiful parts of the UK like Bristol and Bath, and more recently spending time in a very different climate here in Australia. As the International Franchise Manager for the HR Department, Sarah's focus these days is very much on helping HR professionals to set up and run their own businesses, providing quality, local, personal HR services to small and medium enterprises. Sarah's working across both the UK and Australia for many months now, and the HR Department now has more than 70 franchisees in the network providing outsourced services. So welcome, Sarah.
Hi, welcome, Jean. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. And so Sarah's offering us that international perspective across the industry here in Australia and also the UK. And then also joining us today is Brad Adams. Brad is a Director of the HR Department in the Lower North Shore area of Sydney. Brad's an experienced business leader with a passion for delivering strategic human resources to micro and small businesses. And he has a reputation for a very practical and pragmatic approach to managing people in alignment with business strategy and execution. Brad brings broad knowledge and awareness of diverse business operations thanks to an extensive career in enterprise resource planning and supply chain, for example, working with Oracle and SAP and others. Together with an MBA qualification focused on human resource and change management, this means that he brings experience working with businesses across almost every industry vertical. So a diversity of experience assisting his clients with balancing immediate HR needs with the longer term strategic development of employees and team capability. So Brad, you've amassed some broad experience with businesses of all different types.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. I like to put that in the words of Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And I'm obsessed with using the variety and the exposure I've had to help take the risk out of employing people in small business. And it's that variety that really keeps it fresh and interesting for me every day, getting out into small business and helping them deal with people matters.
Brad, tell us just, at a high level about the value of that HR Department offers in terms of outsourced HR services.
As we've said, we provide outsourced HR to micro to small businesses. We do everything that you'd expect from a corporate HR manager in a corporate environment. However, small business can't afford to have an HR manager with them all day, every day. So we sit in that spot for them and manage all things to do with HR on an as-need and on-demand basis, and more importantly, with a practical and pragmatic approach to delivering HR the way small business can affect, and most importantly, affordably.
Great. So it's about being there to offer sort of on-demand services for your clients to tap as need be, as well as the sort of the value of an ongoing relationship and ongoing support.
Yeah, HR support's a little like an insurance policy. You need to make sure that you've got risk mitigation strategies in place to deal with matters related to employees. But you also want to know that if something does go wrong, there'll be someone there to help you through that. You're a small business owner, you're a small business manager. You don't necessarily need to know or are on top of everything to do with HR. That's where we come in and support the small business.
So in working across so many different businesses as you do, Brad, I imagine though you see that there are some particular challenges that keep coming up as the great challenges for HR managers or general business managers who have responsibility in these areas.
Yeah, sure. So, let's face it, whether you like it or not, HR is extremely complex and nuanced. We see that every day. The decisions that the Fair Work Ombudsman makes and hands down, the wide variance of how employers and employees engage. And that's even without starting on the more complex areas of the impact that culture, leadership, performance and incentivization has, and how they feed into business success. So the key challenges I see it for small business is to distill that diversity into things that really are going to impact that business in a given scenario. And that's where I spoke earlier about a practical and pragmatic approach to HR and small business. There's been a lot of discussion out there on managing employee worker type. Are they a casual? Are they full time? Are they a permanent, part-time permanent? Should they be a contractor? And that's really fraught that area, and it's something that we can advise small business on and minimise their risk in those areas. And on top of that, after 12 months, if they were a casual, they reserve the right as an employee on regular work to move across to permanent employment status. And that's a challenge for businesses. They typically bring casuals on so that they can manage that flow of resource as and when they need it. So we help through that. People talk about HR and termination almost in lockstep. And look, it's an important thing to understand when you do want to terminate someone, be it for poor performance, be it for behaviour, be it for situations of redundancy. You need to understand how to do that in a way that, one, adheres to the legislation, but two, is respectful to the individual involved. And it's a challenging thing for a small business owner to get it legislative right, to deal with the emotion around termination, and then to do it. A lot of people put that on the back burner because it's too hard, but that's costing the business money. So we help, once a decision has been one way or the other, we help make that happen as quickly and as compassionately as you can. And all that is designed, we talk about minimising risk again, that's designed to make sure that you're not exposed to an unfair dismissal claim or something of that nature. So that's where we can help. But I think really where we as an outsourced HR can really help a small business is an organisation that wants to grow their business, and let's face it, that's the objective of just about any small business. We want to help them grow by underpinning their business growth strategy with an HR strategy that matches that growth objective. I really enjoy that part of being involved with small business, is challenging them on what they want to do, how they want to go about it, and working out an approach that will help them get to those objectives. A lot of small businesses try and do that themselves. They try and understand HR, they try and manage HR themselves. It takes them an inordinate amount of time to get to a given outcome. Small business can't afford that. So what we do, again, in a cost-effective manner, is that we give that time back to the business owner for them to focus on getting out and growing the business. Let's face it, that's why they're there. That's what they're good at. And hey, we like to say we're pretty good at HR. So we'll take that over for them, obviously with an engagement around them to make sure that it makes sense in their context. But yeah, we'll help a business grow by giving back the time to the business owner or the business manager to get out and do what they're good at. It all comes back to managing the risk of employing people, and that's what we do well.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess one of the great challenges in Australia is the complexity of laws around employment and HR, and the fact that particularly for businesses who aren't just operating locally but maybe operating across states or nationally, that you've got a scenario where you have national legislation and employment law and guidelines to be considering, and then there's different laws in each state and territory as well. So I guess a key part of the value of the HR department offering is that it's a network of HR professionals who are sharing knowledge and insight and able to bring that expertise to customers, not just locally, but also when they're operating nationwide. How does that manifest with the HR department? What does that lead to in terms of what you're able to offer your customer base?
Yeah, what's really what I find great about the business model that we have in place is that we're a collaborative network. We rely on each other and share each other's expertise. We've all come from an extensive HR background, and so we've dealt with those things before, and that enables a small business owner to get access to some really top flight HR advice, not just with the person they're engaged with, but across the network. It also means that we've got consistency in delivery. So the documentation that we use, from employment agreements to policy and procedure and the whole range of compliance documentation is being produced by our employment law partner, Hall & Wilcox, our employment law partners. That enables us to deliver high quality documentation that is tested by specialist employment law providers. So people can rest assured that the service they get wherever they are from the HR department is first rate.
Yeah, fantastic. So, of course, this is one of the challenges in business is about finding the time for this and having the resource capability. So the key here is that as an on-demand service and as an outsourced service, that there's a point of leverage here, isn't there? That they're taking advantage of and being able to access resources that have been developed before, that are fit for purpose, that meet the requirements, and then they're customised and adapted by the HR department team to that specific business's needs.
And that's what allows us to deliver the service in a low-cost environment. You don't have a single person who is creating that from scratch every time it's required. Rather, we have a pool of high-quality documentation, procedures, policies, etc. we spoke about earlier that we all tap into. Not only do we all tap into it, however, as we use that documentation and we will add our own flavour to that, we'll add industry specialisation to it. And so in any small business, they've got far more than they could expect from either in-house or an independent consultant that doesn't have the broad reach that the HR Dept has. And even in situations where I might have more work on at a given point in time than my business can handle, I can readily reach to other people in the network who can come on and, knowing the way I work, because we all work the same way, add that into, come and support me in that. And even if I go on holidays or I'm sick, there's a process in place to hand that over to ensure the small business owner is always protected. I think you want to add something to that, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brad's very points are very poignant, but we are very, very much focused on the personal approach. So when dealing with a client, although we've got these lovely documents that we use, it's about personalising those to each client's requirement. So it's the way they speak, the way they want to come across to their employees. Everything's personalised. We actually our service is based on a personal approach to those clients. It's not a call centre environment. We're about having face-to-face connections, building those really strong relationships with our clients so that we really, truly understand their business from the bottom to the top. And that's how we grow with them, but about personalising the whole experience all the way through.
It's personal and pragmatic advice that makes sense in the context of the company. So I can walk into one of my client sites and I'll know the names of the people in the business. And it's through that personal approach that I can make decisions that affect the small business in consultation with the business owner, but they really make sense. You can't get that from a call centre following a script. When you call an HR department partner, you will get someone who knows your business and is part of your business.
Yeah, indeed. So, with time being precious and looking to address these things efficiently and cost effectively, and to be able to provide that personalised service, a big part of it's about leveraging technology and automation and off-the-shelf solutions to take care of a lot of the detail and compliance and so forth. Tell us about, what kind of approaches you take to that with your clients, how you make that happen.
Well, we're in a very sort of honoured position to work with such fantastic partners that we have to enable us to do what we do and the service that we provide to our clients. The opportunities such as we have with WorkPro allow us to offer a compliance service to our clients. Brad will go into more detail about the physical services that we do, but without those those client partnerships that we have, we wouldn't be as strong and have the success that we do have in the Australian marketplace. Brad can talk about sort of services that we have with WorkPro.
Yeah. So, we all need to understand the legislation and apply that in the context of individual business. But it's more than documentation and compliance. It's making the HR function efficient, productive, and helping achieve that overall business strategy and the objectives that they've put in place. Effective HR, though, comes really through success in terms of the business's success. And WorkPro is really a key example of a partner we work with that allows us to deliver a service to our customers that crosses policies, procedures, compliance, communications, and in doing so supports the execution of the business strategy. The relationship that we have with WorkPro really allows us to help our customers fast-track pre-hire checks, onboarding, induction, training, and managing ongoing qualification and license expiry. But they're just the things that it does. What it enables a business, though, is to get a better perspective into the new hire and how they're going to work with it. It's about time to productivity and reducing the time that takes. It's about the business being able to react quickly to new opportunities. Backfilling faster. Employees who have left the business and such, reducing any business risk. And then, better management of the peaks and troughs in that staffing needs. So that's HR driving business strategy to achieve success in real dollar terms. And WorkPro in our client sites allows us to help them and facilitate them in achieving that.
Yeah, in a cost-effective way for small businesses, because that's key. Then we work with the SME market. We don't work with the big corporates. It's about supporting small businesses, giving them the same benefits that the big corporate companies have got as well. And it's harder for small businesses to do that in the real world. So that's what we can do, definitely.
Yeah, great. So there's a natural alignment there, isn't there, between WorkPro and HR department's approach of serving that particular customer base, and for small and medium enterprises, giving them sort of on-demand capability and tools, taking care of compliance and detail, but being able to do that in a really efficient way, but leveraging the kind of technology that's usually only available to big businesses.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree.
And so, Brad, I imagine you've probably got some pretty interesting examples of what this looks like, actual experiences for businesses.
An example I like to use is a small business. They have 10 employees. They're in labour hire. However, their challenge is that they need to induct and provide training to 800 odd people or new employees per year, contract employees, and then they need to renew about 1,200 per year, around that. So the challenge for them is how do they do that in a timely and cost-effective manner? In the past, that meant bringing people in, and they would have a 3 to 4 hour session once a week. They'd bring people in, they'd need to pay them for that time. And some of those people may never actually go on to work in that labour hire environment. So it was a really costly exercise. There was also the need to very quickly induct people for a specific site where they may have been filling in. So what we were able to do is to provide an online way to induct these people, provide an online way to manage some of the licenses that were required, like security licenses and things of that ilk, and reduce the cost to that business of bringing these people on, firstly, and secondly, allowing them to deliver the customer service imperative that their customers demanded of them.
What other tips would you have for businesses, for our listeners today, about what they can be doing to drive efficiency and better take care of and minimise the risk in these areas?
Well, I'd personally say the end of the financial year has now come and gone. We're starting a new year. The new year is all about a time to focus on the business year ahead. HR plays a massive part in that. It's about planning your growth, restructure, development, have a really good strong think about what you need to plan ahead, and basically rolling out those schemes. So it's enabling your company to grow, be successful for the year ahead. But HR is very, very key to that growth.
Yeah, so be prepared, get organised,
and
set yourself up for success early, so you're avoiding surprises.
Planning is everything.
Brad?
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that. HR is a specialist area, and really you should rely on specialist HR people to manage that for your business. If you have a look at some of the transactional things that need to be done, post New Year, things like single touch payroll and some keeping on top of the legislative changes, things like that. We've done it, and we can roll that out into small business very simply. And I'd say that the top tip for me is to make HR relevant in a small business, and you do that by aligning HR to the business strategy. Without that, HR doesn't offer value per se. So aligning with that strategy, I see is a crucial thing for HR, whether it's outsourced HR or in the case of an in-house HR person, that they focus on strategy in everything that they do.
Indeed. So, we don't want it to be a hindrance, and we don't want HR challenges and issues to be getting in the way of business flow and growth.
Yeah, that's interesting that you put it that way. HR shouldn't be part of the business prevention team. HR should be part of the business growth team and should be looked on first and foremost, how they can help that growth strategy.
Yeah, which is interesting to think about, sort of best practices and having that approach to how can we really get ahead of this and best utilise our resources, grow the capability of our employees and invest in people. And often, I think there's value in a global connected world that we have today, that it's great to consider what approaches are people using around the world. What are the best practices and what can we learn from others? What comes to mind about what they do differently in the UK versus how we do things here? What impact does the cultural difference and the different operating environment have? And what could we potentially learn or take advantage of from what's happening in the UK?
Well, honestly, the legislation, as you quite rightly said, is different in the UK. It's simpler. Employees are very engaged with it. It's easier to understand. In Australia, things are definitely more complex. State and federal legislation, it's harder for employers to understand what they need to do, what they need to comply with, how they need to do it. So I can see a difference. It's much harder for the Australian sector to work with what they've got and understand that. But that's the beauty of what we do. We come along, we support that environment, we make it easier for them so they can focus on the core situation, the core issues in their business, and not focus on the HR side of things. So we can take care of that. We have that knowledge, we have that expertise, and I think that's why the Australian market is just so good for us. I've learned so many things about being in Australia. Some weird and wonderful sayings like you can't put lipstick on a pig, and Christmas in July is a thing. Here I've never ever heard of Christmas in July. I've seen it on shop windows, and it's very, very unusual and weird for me. But I've really enjoyed it. It's a great place to work. Australians are lovely. They're very welcoming. They love networking, but they really, really do like to focus on the personal approach. Personal approach to them is far more important than playing email tag. Having a face-to-face meeting, doing business that way, and that's the way we like to do it because it's the personal connection. It's about forming those relationships. So learned loads from Australia. Absolutely love my time here, and I think the business we're perfectly placed in the Australian market for business, definitely.
And I guess what that means is that in Australia, that personal and amiable, very friendly approach to business, we need to leverage that strength to not be scared of HR and avoiding doing things thoroughly and completely and making sure we're dotting I's and crossing T's, but rather to just embrace the complexity, engage more intensely, taking care of our HR issues, and making it a strength of our business.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
And in the UK, small businesses will document their engagement with the employee, with employee agreements and all of the formal side of it. And I think that's a cultural thing. Whereas here we're a little more laissez-faire, she'll be right, mate. And so people apply that approach to engaging employees. And sure, it'll be okay until it's not okay. In our focus on minimising the risk of employing people in your business and preventing people problems, we want to help the small business put in place pragmatic approaches to HR management that make sense to them, but can be relied on when the proverbial hits the fan.
Yeah, indeed. So, today in Australia, there's more tools, there's more resources, there's more capability to take care of HR more easily, more efficiently, and to take care of compliance and have things under control so that you can focus more on the growth and the investing in people and investing in the business to achieve your business goals.
And our partners really do play such a big part in supporting us in doing that for our clients. We can't do it without them.
And so it's great to have an opportunity to have a conversation with valuable partners today. So thank you to both of you from the HR department. Some great insights from Brad Adams, the Director of the HR department in the Lower North Shore in Sydney, and of course Sarah Fox, the International Franchise Manager from the HR department. To find out more about the HR department, visit them on the web at HRDept, HRDEPT.com.au. Thank you for joining us today, and a big thank you to Brad Adams and Sarah Fox.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, listeners, and we look forward to sharing more of the best of business HR with you in the next episode of the Work Profiles. Bye for now.